Before we begin, ask yourself something. Do you still believe in miracles? What if one act of faith could silence an entire courtroom? What if a child's love could heal what even science declared impossible? Stay till the end, because what happened in that Chicago courtroom will make you believe again. The Supreme District Court of Illinois was filled to the brim that morning. Polished shoes clicked on marble floors. Lawyers whispered over case files. The sharp scent of perfume and pride hung in the air. Outside, reporters crowded the courthouse steps, eager to capture the maid's trial. Inside, Mariah Thompson, a 34-year-old housemaid, stood handcuffed beside her public defender. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. She was accused of stealing a diamond bracelet from the wealthy Senator Claiborne, her employer. But for Mariah, the pain wasn't in the accusation. It was in the sight of her little daughter, Ella, sitting in the back row, clutching a small silver pendant her mother had given her long ago. That pendant, though old, was the only thing of value they owned, passed down from Mariah's mother, and from hers before that. The courtroom buzzed with arrogance and mockery. Just another maid trying to play innocent, one man whispered. Single mothers always have stories, another chuckled. Behind the bench sat Judge Harold Whitmore, 73, a man of towering pride and fading kindness. Bound to his wheelchair for nearly a decade after a car accident, he was a legend in the city, known for being sharp, sarcastic, and utterly without mercy. He banged his gavel. Court is now in session. The people versus Mariah Thompson, he announced in his cold, rasping voice. Mariah's lawyer rose nervously. Your Honor, my client maintains her innocence. She's worked for Senator Claiborne's family for 8 years without issue. Whitmore cut him off. Spare me the sympathy speech, counselor. The evidence is clear. Let's proceed. Laughter echoed faintly from the gallery. Even the stenographer tried to hide her smirk. Mariah lowered her head, whispering a silent prayer. She didn't care about herself anymore. She just wanted Ella to be safe. From the back, Ella watched, trembling. Her small red dress, the one her mom had sewn from leftover fabric, looked almost like a flame in the cold gray courtroom. She didn't understand law or evidence, but she understood something much deeper, her mother's goodness. The prosecutor, a tall man with sharp eyes, spoke with smug confidence. Your Honor, the defendant's fingerprints were found on the jewelry box. We also have testimony from the senator's wife that the bracelet disappeared the same day this woman was cleaning the bedroom. The crowd murmured in agreement. Judge Whitmore nodded. Seems open and shut to me. Do you have anything else to say in your defense, Mrs. Thompson? Mariah's lips trembled. Sir, I didn't take anything. I swear on my daughter's life. Whitmore rolled his eyes. And yet the evidence says otherwise. You people never change. The insult stung. The gallery laughed again, cruel and unfeeling. Mariah's lawyer placed a hand on her shoulder, whispering, Don't cry. We'll appeal. But Ella couldn't bear it anymore. She stood up, her small voice echoing through the room. Stop laughing at my mom. The room froze. All eyes turned to the little girl, in the red dress. Judge Whitmore raised an eyebrow. And who are you, young lady? I'm her daughter, she said softly, though her voice didn't shake. Her name is Ella Thompson. You should sit down, the judge said. This isn't a playground. No, Ella said, taking a step forward. You don't understand. My mom didn't do anything wrong. The prosecutor smirked. Child, this is a court of law. Go sit down. But Ella didn't move. Her eyes, though young, held something unexplainable, something far older than her years. Let my mom go, she said slowly, and I will cure you. The room erupted in laughter. The guards chuckled. Even the bailiff shook his head in disbelief. Judge Whitmore's face turned red. Cure me? Cure me of what? Your legs, Ella replied. The ones that don't work. The laughter got louder. One reporter actually stood up to take a picture. How sweet, someone said. She thinks she's magic. Mariah gasped in horror. Ella, stop. Please, baby. But the little girl's voice cut through the chaos like a bell. You laugh now, she said, but you won't for long. Judge Whitmore's hand trembled slightly, though he hid it under the desk. "Young lady," he said, "I've seen hundreds of liars in this courtroom. Are you saying you can do what doctors, surgeons, and specialists could not?" "I'm not saying it," Ella whispered. "I just know it." A strange quietness spread through the courtroom. Even the laughter began to fade. Mariah's lawyer looked around, confused. The air suddenly felt heavier, charged, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. Judge Whitmore leaned back, forcing a smirk. "Fine, then," he said finally. "You want to play miracle worker? Let's see you try. If you fail, your mother goes to prison." "No!" Mariah screamed. "Please, Your Honor, she's just a child." But the judge waved his hand. "Order. The girl insists she can heal me. I'm curious to see this." The guards exchanged nervous glances. The crowd was divided, half entertained, half uneasy. Ella looked at her mother, tears filling her eyes, but her voice stayed calm. "Mama, trust me, love doesn't lie." Mariah sobbed, unable to stop what was unfolding. The child's red dress swayed as she walked toward the front of the courtroom. Her tiny footsteps echoed like a heartbeat against the marble floor. Judge Whitmore straightened his robe and adjusted his spectacles. "Let's end this nonsense quickly," he muttered. But deep down, something in his chest felt strange, like fear and hope colliding for the first time. Ella reached the bench, standing before him. She looked up, unafraid. The courtroom fell completely silent. Not a cough, not a whisper. Only the distant ticking of the clock filled the air. "Are you ready, Your Honor?" she asked softly. "Do your worst," he replied. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "No, sir," she whispered. "I'll do my best." And with that, she slowly reached out her small hand toward his knee, and the courtroom that once mocked her would never be the same again. The air inside the courtroom grew still, almost sacred. Even the ceiling fan seemed to slow down. Dust floated through the sunbeams like fragments of frozen time. Judge Whitmore looked at the little girl standing before him, small, barefoot, trembling, yet fearless. Her red dress flickered in the light, and for the first time in years, he couldn't find words sharp enough to mock her. "Proceed," he said finally, though his voice was barely a whisper. Ella took one small step closer. Each step echoed across the marble floor like a heartbeat. Mariah tried to rush forward, screaming, "Please, don't hurt her. She doesn't understand what she's saying." Two guards gently held her back. "Ma'am, please." The judge gave his order, one of them said softly, though even he looked uneasy. The prosecutor leaned toward his colleague. "This is insane," he muttered. "What's he trying to prove?" "Maybe he just wants to humiliate her," another whispered. But deep inside Judge Whitmore, something he couldn't explain was stirring, a mix of dread and curiosity. Ella stopped just in front of him. She looked up, her eyes shining like reflections of something unseen. "Do you believe, sir?" she asked softly. "Believe in what?" he snapped. "In mercy." The judge froze. That word, mercy, he hadn't heard it spoken in that room in years. He adjusted his robe and forced a smirk. "Just get this over with, child." Ella nodded. Slowly, she reached out her small hand and placed it on his knee. The courtroom held its breath. Nothing happened for a moment. The silence was deafening. Then a faint shimmer appeared beneath her palm, like sunlight bending through water. Whitmore stiffened. A sharp pain shot through his legs. Not the dead, empty numbness he'd felt for a decade, but pain. Real, living pain. His breath caught. What are you doing to me?" he stammered. Ella's voice was calm. "I'm not hurting you, sir. I'm giving you what you lost." "And what's that?" "Hope." The crowd gasped. Someone in the back dropped a pen. Another whispered, "What's happening?" Mariah's eyes filled with tears. She couldn't move, couldn't even breathe. Then the judge's hands began to tremble. His legs, lifeless for years, twitched. Once. Then again. He grabbed the armrest of his wheelchair. His fingers dug into the wood. "No, this can't be," he whispered. But the tremors grew stronger. His knees flexed. His toes moved. A loud cry burst from the crowd. Some shouted in disbelief, others in prayer. The bailiff froze, mouth open. Whitmore gasped, gripping the bench as his legs trembled violently. Then, slowly, painfully, he pushed himself upward. Every person in that courtroom rose to their feet. "He's standing," someone shouted. "Oh my God, he's standing." The old man stood tall for the first time in 10 years. His eyes flooded with tears. His body shook with wonder and fear. I can feel my legs," he said, sobbing. "I can stand again." The crowd erupted. Reporters at the back scrambled to capture it, their cameras clicking furiously. Mariah fell to her knees, crying uncontrollably. "Thank you, Lord, thank you," she whispered through trembling lips. Ella looked up at the judge, still holding his hand gently. "Now," she said softly, "let my mother go free." Whitmore collapsed back into his chair, not from weakness, but from awe. He stared at the little girl, his voice shaking. Who are you?" Ella smiled faintly. "Just my mother's hope." The prosecutor dropped his files. Papers scattered across the floor. No one dared to speak. The entire courtroom, men, women, skeptics, believers, all stood in silence. Judge Whitmore's face changed. The arrogance was gone. His lips trembled. He reached forward, taking the child's hand in his own. "Forgive me," he whispered. "I mocked what I didn't understand." "You don't need forgiveness," Ella said gently. "You just needed to believe." Mariah rushed forward. The guards didn't stop her this time. She fell to her knees beside her daughter, hugging her tightly. "My baby," she sobbed. "You're my miracle." The judge wiped his eyes, motioning to bailiff. "Release her." Immediately, the handcuffs fell to the floor with a clatter that sounded like freedom itself. For a long moment, no one moved. Then one of the guards began to cry. A woman in the gallery started praying aloud. Even the prosecutor turned away, wiping his eyes. Judge Whitmore, still trembling, sank down before the mother and child. He bowed his head, the same man who once thought himself above everyone. "Mrs. Thompson," he said hoarsely, "I judge you without compassion. I treated you as less than human. Today, your child showed me what justice really means." Mariah shook her head through her tears. "No, Your Honor, it wasn't us. It was love." Whitmore let out a deep, shuddering breath. "Then love has made me whole again." The crowd erupted into applause, not out of mockery, but reverence. Reporters flooded the aisle, snapping pictures of the impossible. A judge who could walk again, a mother freed, a child in red holding her pendant against her chest. Whitmore stood, slowly, fully upright this time. His voice carried through the courtroom. "This case is dismissed. Let it be recorded that miracles are not bound by law." The stenographer wiped her tears, struggling to type the words. Outside, news spread like wildfire. People rushed toward the courthouse as the doors opened. Flashes of cameras filled the steps as the three figures, the judge, the mother, and the girl, walked out together. One reporter shouted, "Judge Whitmore, what happened in there?" The old man smiled weakly, his voice breaking as he replied, "Love happened." That night, every channel across America carried the story. Some called it divine. Some called it madness. But none could deny what they saw. Doctors from Northwestern Medical Center confirmed it. The judge's paralysis was gone. No medical explanation. No surgery. No therapy. Just gone. And in every living room, in every diner, in every heart that watched that broadcast, a spark of something long forgotten returned: belief. 3 days after the courtroom incident, Judge Harold Whitmore sat by the window of his home overlooking Lake Michigan. His wheelchair, the same one that defined his pain for a decade, stood quietly in the corner. He ran his hands over his legs again and again, still in disbelief. Every morning since the miracle, he woke up afraid it was just a dream. But it wasn't. He could walk. He could move. He could feel. A knock came at the door. His housekeeper peeked in. "Sir, the Thompsons are here." He smiled gently. "Let them in." Mariah entered, holding Ella's hand. The little girl wore the same red dress, now washed and mended, but her spirit still glowed brighter than the sun. Whitmore stood to greet them. "You didn't have to come," he said softly. We had to, Mariah replied. You gave us back our freedom. We wanted to see how you were doing. No, the judge said, shaking his head. Your daughter gave me back my soul. They all laughed lightly, though tears glistened in their eyes. For a moment, they just sat together, three people from different worlds, united by one impossible event. Whitmore leaned forward. Ella, he said, I've been thinking, what you did that day wasn't just for me. The world needs to know what love like yours can do. Love doesn't belong to me, sir, she replied. It belongs to everyone. Those words stuck with him, like a spark that refused to die. Weeks later, Chicago woke up to a new kind of headline. Judge Whitmore announces the Red Dress Sanctuary. It wasn't a courthouse. It wasn't a church. It was a place for healing, emotional, physical, and spiritual. A place where people who had lost hope could come and be seen, heard, and loved again. He sold most of his properties to build it. A grand hall made of glass and light, surrounded by gardens and benches, open to all faiths and races. And on opening day, the first person he invited to speak wasn't a politician or a priest or a doctor. It was Ella Thompson. As she walked onto the stage in her red dress, the crowd of thousands fell silent. The news cameras rolled. The city held its breath. I don't have fancy words, she began softly. I'm not a preacher or a miracle worker. I'm just a girl who watched her mom cry for too long. When you love someone, really love them, you'll fight for them, not with fists or hate, but with faith. That day in court, I didn't heal a man. I just believed that love still could. Her voice trembled, but her eyes stayed strong. The world doesn't need more judges or more rules. It needs more people who believe in something good, something kind. The crowd erupted in applause. From that moment, the movement began. They call it the Red Dress Movement, a symbol of compassion in a cold world. People started wearing red ribbons and dresses to represent unconditional kindness. Hospitals, schools, and prisons across America joined in. Letters poured in from around the world. From soldiers, widows, orphans, even inmates, all saying the same thing. Love found me again. But not everyone was pleased. Some powerful figures mocked the sanctuary, calling it religious sensationalism. Others tried to discredit Ella's story, claiming it was staged. Whitmore was invited to TV interviews, and journalists tried to corner him with science and skepticism. He always gave the same reply. I don't care if you call it faith, fate, or physics. I just know I was broken, and now I walk. Love did that. And people listened. Because in a time when the world felt divided and angry, that truth was louder than any argument. One cold evening, a storm swept across Chicago. Lightning split the sky. Inside the sanctuary, Judge Whitmore stood before a small gathering, looking at a portrait of Ella and her mother that now hung near the entrance. Ella, now a little older, was beside him. Sir, she said, do you ever miss your old life before all this happened? He smiled faintly. I miss nothing, child. The old me was alive, but not living. The day you touched my heart was the day I began again. Ella nodded. I think the world is beginning again, too. Thunder rolled, and the lights flickered, but no one left. They sat together, people from every color, creed, and class, holding hands, singing softly as the storm passed over the city. And when the clouds finally broke, a single beam of sunlight cut through the sky, striking the sanctuary's glass dome. It reflected off the walls, filling the entire hall with red light, just like the color of Ella's dress. People gasped. Some wept. Others fell to their knees. Whitmore whispered, maybe heaven is reminding us. Ella smiled. That love still shines, even after the storm. And that, my friends, was the story of the girl in the red dress. A story that began in a courtroom filled with pride and ended in a sanctuary filled with peace. A child taught the world what no law or religion could. That love is the highest justice. That forgiveness is the purest miracle. And that sometimes the smallest hands carry the greatest power. So today, wherever you are, whoever you are, if there's someone you've stopped believing in, if there's a wound you've refused to heal, if there's hope you've buried deep inside your heart, it's time to believe again. Because love didn't end in that courtroom. It lives in you. It lives in all of us. Wear your own red dress, not as cloth, but as courage. Speak kindness. Show mercy. Be someone's miracle. And when you do, you'll discover what Ella already knew. The greatest power in the world isn't found in the hands of the mighty. It's found in a heart that still dares to love.